Hello and welcome to Cards and Cardboard, where we are going to review a little deck builder game from AEG called Valley of the Kings, and its little standalone sister, Valley of the Kings Afterlife. So, Valley of the Kings is what I like to call like a mini deck builder. Many deck builders are in large boxes in my collection. I've got the Pathfinder Adventure card game, Trains. I've played things like Dominion and the Resident Evil deck building game, and those things just have huge shelf space. But this one, thankfully, contains everything in a nice little box that you can play with your friends. The game itself is suitable for 1 to 4 players. It takes about half hour, 45 minutes, hour if you're really pushing it. Uh, in this exciting set collection deck building game. So we're going to take you right into the box and look at the components here. So in the box, you're going to get 94 cards, a rule book, and a few reference cards and tombs. What you're going to want to do is you're going to separate out all the gray cards, and those are going to be the starting cards. Each player is going to have a deck of 10 cards to start their deck with. And these are going to be composed of 4 of one card, 3 of another, 2 of another, and 1 of the last card. Those are kind of representative of a pyramid in itself, which is kind of fun and thematic. But then you're going to separate all the cards based off of a level number, which are seen in the bottom corner here. Ones all belong to the starter set. Twos are the first ones to get put on top of the deck, and then threes are on the bottom of the official deck here. And what you're going to do is every turn you're going to draw 5 cards, which all have different symbols and numbers on them and abilities. And depending on how you want to, every card you can play for basically one of these things. So I can play 3 cards which have 3 money on them to buy something of value 3 up here, and then add it to my discard pile. And then when you buy something, it's going to crumble the pyramid down, and then you're going to take the top card of the deck and kind of put it there. So this is going to keep the game moving. But then I still have these 2 other cards, which, I could play a card for its ability text, which allows me to do something like swap 2 cards in the pyramid. And then I can finally do one other action on my turn, and that's to entomb a card, which means I get to put this underneath my tomb card and score for points at the end of the game. So the idea is that there are a number of different cards in certain colors here. So for example, this outer sarcophagus, there are only 3 different types of sarcophagus. There's an outer, an inner, and a middle for this case. And if I get all 3 of these into my tomb by the end of the game, it'll be worth its value total, which is the number of cards times itself. So in this case, 9 points. Now you have things like statues, which are worth 7, because they have 7 of those cards throughout the entire deck. And, well, obviously that's going to be 49 points. So collecting a lot of statues is a good thing. But there are also these purple ones, which are uniques, which do not belong to any set, much like your starting cards. And those will be worth a value printed on the bottom. So the general idea is that every turn, you'll take whatever you have in your discard pile, which is usually going to be things that you bought or have yet to entomb, draw 5 cards, play some more cards out for their abilities or money, buy more cards, and construct your deck. And steadily also put things into your tomb for the end of the game. Meanwhile, the pyramid, whenever it's touched or untouched, will start to crumble. And when the entire pyramid is gone, and every player has gotten a chance to take an equal number of turns, then the game will be over. And that's how you play Valley of the Kings. So here's the grand total of all of the cards that have come into the Valley of the Kings. It is over 200 cards worth of content and 2 rulebooks, and there's enough starting deck cards for officially 8 players to play. However, the rulebook does suggest that you maximize at 5. Now, the biggest difference between the original game and the sequel game, Valley of the Kings Afterlife, is the fact that there's a little bit more player interaction with the cards. A lot of cards have the ability where if you're forced to discard a card, you can maybe force everyone else at the table to discard a card as a response, if the card that you discarded had that ability text. Ability text has really been like the sore point of this game. You have to kind of understand it And thankfully, a lot of them are explained in the rulebook, but at times they can still be a little confusing. Thankfully, they're not like icons that you gotta interpret because each of the cards has a unique ability. So the great thing about the sequel game, Valley of the Kings Afterlife, is that they added the same type of cards in color, but they used a different thematic flavor for them. So in this case, in the original Valley of the Kings, we have things like amulets, statues, and sarcophagi, in which in Valley of the Kings Afterlife, things have been changed to mummification tools and jewelry and pieces of art. And that's really neat thematically speaking. Now, there's different configurations that you can do with the deck now. That's over 200 cards worth of stuff. Basically, you have two of every individual card in the game. So there will be only two of these statues of Toph here. But what you can do is, if you have the second deck, you can choose to either do a mixed set where every card only has a single representation of it in their in the entire game, uh, and that's going to really separate things out. You can do different ways of scoring that too, where statues and pieces of art can be scored together since they're the same blue color. Or they can be individually scored, which makes them even more valuable, in my opinion, as the artwork and the uh, points from the books are now worth even less than each, are harder to collect, rather, and will be definitely fought after. So if you're looking at that, that's a pretty interesting way to use all the cards in your game. However, one of my favorite ideas is that you just mix both decks together and you have this huge super deck that you're playing with 5 or 6 players. And of course, there's 2 sets of cards in the deck, and you're going to have to really wait your entire turn to come around to you after 5 other players have gone to get the card that you want. So I definitely say that it's worth picking up both versions of this game, especially at the price point, since each of them retails for about 20, 25 bucks. And any large deck builder like Dominion, which has about the same number of cards, you're going to get for about that same price. Thankfully, though, small shelf space and a lot of replay value. So we're going to wrap this up here and take in the final thoughts, and hopefully you'll enjoy what you've seen here today.
So, as I was saying at the beginning of this review, deck builders are usually large and expansive. This one is very nice because of the fact that there's only like 2 of every card in there, and you're going to have to focus more on that set collection. Every card that you take is going to be not only an asset for money, but it's also going to be a certain type of action you can take in the future, or just part of that last thing that you need in order to get more points. There's a lot of focus on denial and player interaction, which is something you don't get in a lot of games like Dominion unless you play with expansions. It's really refreshing to see this out of a deck builder, specifically for something this small. I definitely say that the original is a great starting point. I would recommend that to anyone who wants to look into this game and become involved with it. However, with the second game, there's a lot more player interaction, and it's a lot more focused and has a driving force towards that player interaction. There's a lot of, you play this on your turn, so now I play this as a response, which is something you don't see in a lot of deck builders. So, we're going to go right into the final thoughts here. Art is pretty nice. Everything's got this ancient Egyptian theme to it. It fits the theme really well that you're trying to build up your tomb with these things that you're trying to bury yourself in to take into the other life. Just for sake of argument, I'm just going to give it a 9. The graphic design works. The text can get a little small with the flavor text, but the rest of the text is vibrant and, for the most part, very easy to see. And the colors are very colorblind friendly, more for the fact that there's also an icon up in the corner there that helps you denote what suit each of the cards comes from. Card quality and box quality. AEG has tons of cards that are this very nice thickness that you don't even really need the sleeve until maybe like 20 or 30 plays out. It's kind of amazing what they can do. And the boxes are nice and hardy and thick cardboard that are going to last you quite a long time. So if this is a game that you're going to have on the go like me and my wife do, that's probably one of the best ways to enjoy this game is to grab yourself a game mat and play this little deck builder because it doesn't take up much table space whatsoever as well. Gameplay is terrific. It can get a little iffy when you're playing with 2 people versus playing with 4 people or 3 people. I haven't tried the 5 and 6 variant yet because we just got Afterlife. All I have to say about that is that you gotta keep your eye out for the cards that you want, and it's all about that denial and gameplay that you can do on your turn and maximizing those actions, knowing what cards to keep before you entomb. It's very much like this new game that came out called Elysium, which you probably should check out as well if you're into this kind of denial and player interaction and this building of your own personal board area. So gameplay, I'm going to give this a 7. Because the first game focused a lot on what you were doing. The second game, Afterlife, focuses a lot more on what your opponents are doing and how to affect them. Together, though, you got a great amount of variety with the different variants, with combining the decks or selectively choosing which cards go in there or having just one of every card available instead of 2. I definitely recommend trying those out because that'll go right into the next part here, which is replayability, which I have not gotten bored with this game. Many deck builders get kind of samey, and in the end this one has that same flavor that you're playing every time, but the way the cards come out is varied enough, and if you are trying the other game modes, you're going to get a lot of replay value out of this. However, I'm going to still give it about a 7. Because I could see maybe after 30 plays, people are starting to develop certain strategies for certain cards that come out, and objectively there are certain cards like the uniques that are just a slight bit better to have than other cards in the pyramid, and you might have this weird kind of thing where you have the ability to take something from the pyramid right away, which seems a little unfair to the other players. But at that point in the game, you should have already maybe had that ability as well, so that's up to you. If you like a little take that and a little bit of deck builder, stick them together and you got Valley of the Kings. So, right into the final thoughts, I'm going to write this up as a solid 7. It's something I am more than willing to play every time it gets pulled out around my group. However, I have to say that it really matters your group size and what kind of play style you're looking for, because deck builders aren't quite for everyone, but it's a great way to kind of introduce them to heavier, crunchier deck builders. So definitely give Valley of the Kings and Valley of the Kings Afterlife a shot if you ever see it. Thank you so much for coming and seeing our review. Please like, comment, subscribe. Please comment. We are working on fixing our audio quality and getting that better, and we're looking at improving our video quality in the future. If people give me enough feedback, I would love to hear what you would like me to do more of on the show. If you're interested more in gameplay, or if you're interested more in, say, these little reviews that are about 15 minutes long or so, just drop us a line. Alright, thank you so much for seeing our review of Valley of the Kings and its sister game, Valley of the Kings Afterlife, and have a good day.